Hello, how are you? How's everyone out there? This is Bob Gums, and I am bringing you the Concern Forum. So, once again, how are we doing, America? How are we doing, New York? Where do we stand? Where do you stand? How do you feel? How does your life feel now that many of you out there got your wish? You wanted Donald, and you got Donald. So how do you feel about that, folks? Happy? I'm curious. I have been hearing that a lot of you folks that wanted Donald so badly that you got him, but for some odd reason, it seems that a lot of you are unhappy with him. Well, I tell you, to me, to my way of thinking, and I am, as you know, I'm not a religious man, okay, to say the least. However, I still have, I guess, a lot of that basic Catholic school stuff I learned from the time I was like in the, what was it, fourth grade. A lot of that stuff, it does stay with you. And I guess what I mean to say, the same type of thing that we learned in kindergarten. Be fair, be kind to other people, don't hurt other people. I mean, I'm just breaking it down like that, trying to get those basic ideas across the deck, as it were. And that's the main point of what I learned in Catholic school. That you treat others fairly as you yourself want to be treated. Nowadays, that seems to be, I don't know, that seems to be a problem. When you talk about right and wrong and fairness, Trump and his MAGA fiends, I don't know, if a person believes in fairness, somehow that makes them weak or stupid. And I find that to be pretty dangerous. It's a pretty dangerous way of thinking. Because if you think that it's okay to go through life, excuse me, to go through life without having some sense of empathy, what does that say about you as a human being? What does that say about our society as a group or congregation of people? If you can't feel for your fellow human beings, what kind of human being are you? An example, this Republican Party of today, I was talking with a acquaintance of mine that's a regular Uber driver. Nice guy, very nice guy. And we got, to talking, as we always do every time I catch my ride with him. And I brought up the question. He happens to be Latino, by the way. and I brought up the issue of what happened early this year, practically at the beginning of this year. And we were talking, and I, reminded him, using Florida, the state of Florida, as an example. How many people there, Latino people, ran out into the streets, yelling, "Viva Trump! Venezuelans for Trump! Cubanos for Trump! Dominicans for Trump!" All these various subgroups of the Latino community were out there shouting their praises for Donald Trump. Almost like it was the second coming of Christ. And the sad thing is that Donald, he lost no time. Now, he spent a whole year, actually more than a whole year, courting the votes of the Latino community. And the first thing that he does, foreign policy-wise, because, this whole immigration thing, it bleeds into foreign policy. Because we send people to another sovereign nation, and, we say to them, hey, could you expand and possibly even build and open up a concentration camp for the United States, for us up here. And I'm trying to, I try to figure people out. And this guy, his whole thing, again, I'm not trying to purposely offend anyone, but I tell it like it is. And that is a big thing, especially out there in so-called middle of America, whatever the hell that means. He's a Christian white guy. In other words, he's trying to set himself up as the defender of white Christianity. To hear him tell it, I think that is so damned dangerous to hear that coming out of the mouth of an American president. Suppose Barack Obama, who, by the way, was elected president twice, suppose he had come out and said, well, I am the first obvious-looking black American to be president. So I'm going to set myself up as the defender of black people throughout the diaspora. Wherever black people are, I am their champion. Now, suppose Barack did that, right? And essentially said things along those lines. I wonder what would happen. Well, you and I both know that there would probably be riots in the street. There would probably be impeachment proceedings brought against Barack. He would be accused of racializing the presidency of the United States. And those charges would be correct. The president of the United States is just that, the President of the United States. That means that everybody in the United States, they are, how should I say it? They are a responsibility of the president. But for real, just think about that. If Barack had come out and said, yeah, well, I'm the champion of, black people throughout the entire world. And more than saying it, he actually started to do actions along those lines. What would happen in this country? I tell you what, this country would explode. Seriously. And you know that based upon the racial history of the United States, you know damn well at this point in our history, if Barack had said something like that along those lines, this country would have blew up like Mount Vesuvius. And if you're going to say that I am wrong or I'm mistaken, then you are not being honest with yourself. Let's be real, okay? You ain't being honest. If Barack Obama came out and said, I am the champion of black people throughout the world, and started to do things along those lines, there would be hell to pay in this country. And you know that as well as I do. And if you don't admit to that, then you are not being honest with yourself. Don't ever tell your kids about the righteousness of telling the truth, because you will be telling a damn lie. Not just a lie, but a damned lie. If Barack Obama had said that I am the champion of black people throughout the world when he was president, this country would have blown sky high like Mount Vesuvius, right? Now, if you don't agree with that, then you are a liar. Or you are lying to yourself. Yet we look at what's happening with our president, our dear beloved Orange Papa. And I don't hear any yelling. I don't hear any screaming. I don't hear any denunciations on Capitol Hill. What the hell? What have we allowed people to do to the American body politic? What have we allowed people to do to our heads? Really? Now, supposedly, last I heard, excuse me, my throat's a bit dry. No, it's not beer. Wish it was, but it's not. Suppose Barack did something like that. I say again for the fourth time, this country would have blown its top sky high. Yet, O'Donnell, he comes out and he has said it before, or words to that effect before, and he actually does it. Now, as I said, supposedly we have a labor shortage in this country. We have millions of Latino people in this country. And see, this is one of America's biggest Achilles heel because we're not taught history. Now, a lot of us, or excuse me, many of us don't want to know history. They don't wish to learn history. Okay, because we have this thing in America, ignorance is bliss. See, and see, this is the problem. This is why the rest of the world looks in upon us and says, "Oh, why are Americans so stupid? Why are Americans so ignorant? Why do Americans seem like they're so backwards in comparison to the rest of the industrialized nation? How come they don't have some form of national health care? Why do why do American elected officials watch their constituents die from lack of medical care, and yet they do nothing about it? How can that be in supposedly the greatest nation in the recorded history, or at least the modern recorded history of this planet? Why? How does this kind of thing happen? I don't have all the answers, but I got some ideas. I think need to be looked at. This whole thing, right? How we treat people in this country who we consider to be different, or them, or other, right? Once you get on the others list, oh man, you're screwed. Okay? And that is what has happened here in America. We have a list of people who they're on the out list. When they talk about the ins and the outs, right? Black folks, for example, especially black men, definitely on the outs list. Latinos, they're on the out list, but the way that they are on the out list, well, it's just another example of how this is not, the Republican Party is not the party of Lincoln. I believe Abraham Lincoln's relatives, the next time they hear at some Republican convention or whatever, well, yes, we're the party of Lincoln, they should sue. They really should. Because this is not the party of Lincoln. This is, there's a word for it. I can't think of it right now off the top of my head. But it's a word that means, embryonic. What we have is an embryonic American fascist party. Okay? I don't want to say embryonic Nazi party. So I will say an embryonic fascist party. That's what we have here in the United States. It has always been with us. See, you got to realize that we have about 25% of the American people who basically are fascist. And, that is a large part of the problem, because we believe that, it's just those Republicans, blah, blah, blah. Well, the truth of the matter is that it's not just those Republicans, because this is not, here in America today, this is not a Republican Party. The Republican Party that I grew up with in my home. I'm quite sure those of you who have heard my show before, you know that I always pride myself on the fact that I grew up in a Republican home. My mom and dad were rock-ribbed, stalwart Republicans, right? Republicans, not fascists, but Republicans. Most of the people back in the day, as we say, were Republican, period, right? Who were Republican or who were registered Republican, they were Republicans. Conservative Republicans, they were kind of like a fringe of the Republican Party. For example, Eisenhower, President Eisenhower, the guy that helped to win the war in Europe, General Eisenhower, he was a Republican. He was not a conservative Republican. He was just a Republican. And he embodied the basic ideas of the Republican Party. Freedom, a government that was not overbearing and giant-sized. People had their personal freedom. All strong foreign policy in that we would show strength in our foreign interactions, right? Now, of course, you have all kind, little skullduggery here and there with the CIA, that sort of thing. But on the whole, if you asked Ike or any other Republican at that time, hey, what's this Republican Party all about? And, that's what they would tell you. Those are the answers that they would give you. Oh, and even though they were always a little suspicious of super big government, they believed in the New Deal. Eisenhower said any politician that tries to dismantle what Franklin did with the creation of the New Deal will be a damn fool. Okay? You had a lot of union guys who were Republicans. My old man was a union shop steward and a civil rights activist in Harlem. And he was a Republican. And what people say nowadays, they say it because they're full of crap, but when they say that the Democratic Party outside of the Northeast and West Coast, to a large extent, they were kind of fascist leaning. They were the party of KKK sympathies because, you had the Democrats in the South. All right, because remember, the Republicans were the ones that basically fought and won the Civil War. So the South basically, gravitated. They were always down with the Democratic Party, right? But what happened with the coming of FDR in 1932, you had a lot of African Americans, a lot of people who were on the out list gravitated to the Democratic Party because the Democratic Party, the leaders of the Democratic Party felt that, hey, we need to catch up with the rest of the 20th century. You had all the terrible things that happened that my parents lived through in the Great Depression. And bit by bit, the Democrats became more and more progressive. You have to realize something, that the Republican Party in the 20s and 30s, It's weird because it was the party of big business, yeah, but it was also the party where you hatched a lot of socialists, places like Wisconsin, right, had Republicans who were socialists and vice versa. And then, of course, you had World War II, which essentially opened up, America to the rest of the world. World War One left a bad taste in the mouth of the American people. Not so with World War II, because we realized that we were a big, strong nation, that we had fought in the war, didn't win World War II. Actually, a lot of people will disagree with me, but if it wasn't for the Russians, I don't know what would have happened. I guess a lot of us would be speaking German if we were alive to speak at all. See, don't take credit from Russia. When somebody does something that's right, stand up for it. And Russia was the key reason why Hitler could not bring to fruition his plans for Western Europe and his plan to have the Lebensraum, the living space. See, but all that aside, America began to realize that, hey, we have, especially after they dropped the bombs in Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Hey, we have this strength, we have this power, we have a responsibility to try and not run the world, not rule the world, but to be one of the forces managing the world. Okay? A lot of it, be honest about it, a lot of it was not so much altruistic, because a lot of it it makes sense to help people. And at the end of World War II, the world needed help. Remember, we were scarcely touched. Excuse me a second. My fiance is checking up on me. Okay. There we go. Oh, don't get jealous. Whole bunch of y'all out there, fellas, would love to have some woman checking up on you. Okay? So, yeah. Now, as I was saying, we realized at that time that we had an obligation to be part of the solution and not to be part of the problem. And so we had the Marshall Plan, named after General Marshall, who then became Secretary of State. And we figured the best way to help Western Europe and help them to not become communist, to be taken over by Russian communism, was first and foremost to make sure that they weren't hungry. Because you'd be surprised what hungry people will do. Okay? If somebody's promising them food on the table, chances are they're going to go where that food is. So Marshall came up with the idea, let them come to us for the food. And we spent billions of dollars feeding and rebuilding Western Europe, Greece, Italy, right? England, Great Britain, France. Yeah, America did that. See? And, it's funny, right? Because, now people are talking about, these taxpayer dollars that are being spent and blah, blah, blah. The thing about spending federal money, are we spending it just for the hell of it, or are we spending it as an investment? Just a quick sidetrack. We came up with something called the GI Bill, right? Well, basically, we paid our servicemen and women, we paid them good money to go to college and to get associate's degrees and bachelor degrees and master degrees and PhDs and to become screenwriters and actors and architects and artists, right? We, taxpayers, America, right? And guess what? Because of those expenditures, we built the most healthy, educated, greatest society in the history of the world. It was those expenditures that helped us to win, I hate to put it like that, the space race. Was that a big deal? Well, yeah, it was, because we didn't like the idea of the Russians with their communistic ideas to be the ones that would call the shots in outer space. It's as simple as that. And I was a little kid. I mean, I was a really young kid, but I can remember the adults, and I can remember the word Sputnik, because the first country that actually put a man-made object into outer space, right? It was Russia. But see, that was a good thing because it made Americans really freak out and wake up and say, "Hey, man, we gotta pick up on our science and mathematics," and that's exactly what happened. That movie that came out with those three sisters, who in real life, that's exactly what happened. They went to work for NASA. And that one lady in particular, she was the one that figured out all the trajectories and what have you for shooting the astronauts into space and bringing them back alive. I mean, that called for some serious math work, all right? And the fact that she, as a black woman living in the South, was able to get all that, all right, and to excel in mathematics. All three of them did, right? But the fact that they were able to do that, oh, and along the way, one of them, for the first time, she integrated, I forgot which college it was. Was it VCU? Virginia State? Well, anyway, she was able to integrate that college for the first time because she needed a particular math course. And at that time, there was only, for black people, it was very difficult to be able to get that course because, the whole segregation thing. And by golly, she did it, And John Glenn, he loved the one, I forgot the name of the lady that this girl plays. But, John Glenn loved that woman because she was the one that got him up there and back in one piece. It was her math and the projections that were made from that mathematics that enabled Glenn and the other astronauts to, do their thing. And see, all this was a spinoff from the attitude, right, of the GI Bill, the need for math and science to be taught in school. And at that time, you had everybody, little kids, grandpas and grandmas, right, dealing in math, in mathematics. And see, that's the type of thinking that we need now. But at that time, you did not have one of the two parties basically acting as a blockade for higher education. The Republican Party, that's why I look at those folks and I say, are you really Americans? I look at Trump and I'm like, are you an American president? Whose side are you on? Okay? Because the Republican Party, they seem to be more interested in destroying the middle class than helping to build it up. And in this country, we have so many misconceptions about things. And it's a shame. And the main reason is because people don't know. Back in 47, 48, they did know, right? People were somewhat, maybe not as good as I would like to see, but they had much better knowledge than we do now. And that's because essentially what one group of people in this country decided to do was to dumb the American mind down. Because I will tell you, my opinion, people were a lot brighter in the 60s and 70s than they are now. And that was done purposely. I thought long and hard about why Kamala Harris lost. Now, let's get something straight. She should not have lost. Should not have lost. But the fact that she did lose, I think it behooves us to sit down and figure out, why did this happen? And it's extremely important because one thing, if I do anything with the time that I have still here, I want folks to understand that this was not that's just politics. That's how elections go. No, that's not true. It's not true. The so-called mainstream media, I don't know what the hell is wrong with these people. Look, let's get real here. You take a guy, he has a criminal record as long as your arm. A convicted rapist, right? Or was it 30, 31 different, convictions? I mean, the man's a criminal, okay? Bankrupted a major American city, Atlantic City, bankrupted it, went into bankruptcy 6 times. Now, this is not little Bobby Gum saying all this stuff, right? This is history. This is what happened. Okay? This is what happened. Tried to overthrow the government of the United States. We saw that. We saw that with our own eyes, right? Played around with top secret documents in his bathroom. I can tell you this. If you had a man in politics who did the same things that Donald Trump did, he would be in Alcatraz, right? Or he would be out there at, Missouri or Kansas, right? Where you have the federal penitentiary. Top secret documents in his freaking bathroom and in other rooms throughout his hotel mansion, whatever the hell Mar-a-Lago is, where people can just walk around discussing top secret information about an active military operation over chocolate cake in his dining area of his hotel mansion. That would not have been allowed. It would not have been allowed. That person Number one, they'd be definitely banished from American politics. Number two, there would be some type of criminal sanction against this person. Number three, he would be, to hell with the criminal sanction, his butt would be in jail. Pure and simple. Okay? Four, a guy like that would never have been allowed to succeed in American politics. He was a 6-time draft dodger. I'm not making this crap up. This is real. Oh, I'm sorry. I exaggerated. It wasn't 6 times. It was 5 times. Okay, excuse me. A 5-time draft dodger, right? From a war where kids in my neighborhood, in the projects, right? And white kids from Appalachia, right? Black, Latino, white guys from the South and from Appalachia, that's who went to Nam generally. And here it is, Richie Rich. Oh, well, I had in my foot, I can't remember which foot it was, right? Remember that press conference he had? And somebody had the temerity to ask him about that? And what did he say? He couldn't remember which foot. Some kind of bone, what was it, bone scan or bone sprain or some bullshit like that. And his foot. I mean, my God, they took guys with practically no legs into the military in the 60s and 70s. Who are we bullshitting here? The doctor was renting an apartment from from Trump's dad. And they paid the doctor to basically put that BS down and use it to keep Donald out of the military. And then this poor broken creature with the bad right foot goes back to his fancy-ass prep school or college, whatever it was at that time, and I understand he was a pretty good baseball player. So who are we BSing here? You see, this is what I have a real difficult time understanding as to what's happened to this country, what has happened to people's mind. You know, it really, when I hear a veteran talk about he's a Trump supporter or she's a Trump supporter, I'll be honest about it. My heart sinks. That breaks my heart. It really does. Being a veteran myself, and I'm saying, oh my God, man, or my God, woman, how could you support this piece of crap? To be our chief executive, to be our commander-in-chief. And it's not like he redeemed himself somehow. You know, he goes into the White House and he makes a shambles of it. I mean, he has people smearing feces on the walls of the House of Representatives. And people have the nerve to go and vote for this guy for a second time. Look, there are a few explanations for it, though. And I'm sorry, but, and I agree with Bernie Sanders. As a matter of fact, right now in the Democratic Party, him and Ocasio they're the best team that we got in terms of president and vice president. Now, that's how I feel. The reason I feel that way is because, number one, it's, the whole thing, a lot of it revolved around race and sex. You had too many people in this country, and they all were not white and male. Unfortunately, you had a much more than should have been group of Latino, especially Latino men and black men that went out there supporting Trump. I think it's a crime nowadays for any black person and any Latino person, any working class white person, any Asian person, any indigenous person, descended from indigenous people of this land, to vote for a guy, to support a guy and a party that stands for their extermination. And with that, I also include white working class guys, people. You know, not just white working class men, but also white working class women. Look at the things they want to do. What's that called, that piece of crap? Project 25 or something? Yeah, look at it. And look at those results. Now think about this. These guys, right? You got vets out here. I know, over 400,000 of us are unemployed, right? Almost half of the homeless people in this country are veterans. And we're not even beginning when we talk about the mental illness from the stress and strain of trying to live in what this country has become, right? Yet, you voted for a guy, right, that basically he spends all his time playing golf. When he's not playing golf, he wants to spend millions of dollars so the military can have a big parade for him. What the hell? What is he, freaking 5 years old? You know, he wants to see a parade, a big military parade with, the guns and tanks and rockets. This is what we have put in the White House. I tell you, quite frankly, any politician who runs for office, the standards have been lowered so damn low that all the guy or gal has to say is, well, hey, look, you put Trump in there, so don't be pointing your fingers at what I do or say. And they have a point. A criminal, a person, our intelligence agencies, many of whom believe that this guy is a Russian bot. They believe, not that he's a spy, because as we have seen, Trump is not spy material. You got to have a brain to be a spy, right? You have to have an intellect to be a spy. Trump doesn't have that. He has a certain reptilian craftiness, but there's no one upstairs with this guy, right? This is what you pick. And then you say that, well, Kamala Harris was just a DEI. I am so tired of the Republicans basically butchering the English language. It's a shame. Oh, there they go with their woke philosophy. Well, what the hell, what the hell is woke? What do we mean by woke? So what you're saying is that you prefer for people to go through life with their eyes closed and asleep. That's all I can figure out, because if you keep on condemning people for being woke, the opposite is, what's the opposite of woke? The opposite of being woke or awake is to be asleep. So you want people in our society to go through life asleep. Ever try driving the car when you're asleep? Ever try walking down the street when you're asleep with your eyes closed? Now, does that make sense to you? Because it damn sure doesn't make sense to me. But yet, that's what these so-called Republicans want our society to be, a society full of people who are asleep. And that is, that's freaking insane. Oh, and getting back to that thing about the top secret documents all over the place, all over his house. If this was in the 60s and 70s, he would not be allowed to run. It would not happen. Number one, because he'd probably be, more than likely, he would be incarcerated. See, that's why, especially people overseas, that's why they look at Americans. You think I'm kidding? Take a trip anywhere, right? Western Europe, Latin America, Africa, right? And people will look at you, oh, American, huh? What happened to you guys? What the hell happened to you? Because they're trying to figure out how in the hell a country that had so much going for it, how did you fall for this? But you know, I was getting ready to say something earlier, and it had to do with religion. And I'm very funny speaking about religion, because religion is it's a matter of conscience, right? Everybody sees their God the way that they want to see it. That's cool, right? But I believe that on certain things, certain points, it all comes together. Human dignity, right? There is no difference, there's no differences in that. We all have a right to be respected, to have our humanity respected. The same way I want my humanity to be respected, I'm going to respect yours. That comes, I think, every belief system or religion, however you want to call it, everyone basically is all based on the do unto others as so you would have them do unto you, right? Real simple, not hard to understand at all. Yet, and of all places, in the United States of today, you have a political party. Like I said, they're not Republicans. Okay, they're using the name. But this group or party, right, in combination with this other party called MAGA, right, they have taken the whole concept of the golden rule and they have trash canned it, right? That the idea of doing unto others, that's some form of weakness in their mind. And that's dangerous. That's damn dangerous. And looking at this election that we just had in November, I know there are a lot of academics who are fleeing the country because they're afraid that fascism is really picking up steam. But and this is what I was getting to, the whole thing about the idea of God, faith, fate, what have you. Sometimes I believe that the power, our Creator, allows things to happen because I guess the Creator feels that, well, look, let these knuckleheads learn the hard way. And I do feel that that's what the whole election for the second time of Donald Trump, I believe that that's what it's all about. Let them learn the hard way. Now, of course, there's a very good possibility that we learn this lesson and that's it. Our democracy is gone. And give Trump credit. He's working hard. He's working hard on taking away our democracy. Let there be no doubt in your mind, right? But how should you put it? It's like in Navy boot camp, right? You got to go to the swimming pool, and you have to, like Chief used to say, I'm going to teach you how to swim one way or the other, right? And you are either going to sink or swim. And I believe that Creator or the faith or fate out there, that's what they have done. They have basically put a choice out there and say, look, this is it. Now, if this is what you want, if you want a situation analogous to Central Europe of 1936, well, you're going to get it. But it's going to be on you. It's going to be up to you. If you let Trump and his MAGA people take away your democracy, it's going to be on you. Right? And that is the only good thing about Trump's election for a second time. Because it's going to be sink or swim. I don't give a damn if the Democrats put Mickey Mouse out there against Trump in 28. Doesn't make a difference. And these people that walk around say, oh, well, I ain't bothered to vote because I ain't seen nobody worth voting for. Well, you keep that merry thought in your head. Okay? And when you are basically and especially if you are a working class white guy or a black person, right? Working class black person or a working class Latino or Asian or indigenous person, you keep singing that crap about, oh, well, I ain't feel like being bothered because I didn't like who was running. Because you hear a lot of people saying that. I heard a lot of people say that stupid crap this past November. You gave your economy over to somebody that's basically wrecking, not just America. He's trying to break the world's economy. They have him and his little group of weirdos, right? They have this idea that they want to basically put the whole planet through some kind of boot camp, right? What's the purpose of boot camp? To break you down and then to build you back up. And that's what they want to do for the entire planet, right? They want to turn this entire planet into some kind of slavery type concentration camp. In some parts of the world, it will be very brutal, very 1939-like, right? In other parts of the world, it might be maybe a little more comfortable. But you will know that you don't live in a democracy, whether you're getting it hard or whether you're getting it soft. Either way, you know that the whole thing about land of the free, home of the brave, the Constitution, being judged by trial by jury, jury of your peers, and all that other good crap, that will be gone. It's barely hanging on by the skin of its teeth now. And if Trump and MAGA and their minions have their way, it will be gone throughout the world. And see, that is what this whole thing about Trump getting elected for the second time. That's what it's all about. Because fate has put it on our shoulders, right? It's going to be up to you. Now, if you are more concerned about, these trans people, if you're, as Bill Maher is, right, or was, I should say, the Democrats come over with this, fighting for trans people. Listen, number one, in America, we fight for everyone's right, period. Trans, I have no understanding, okay, about trans people. That's a whole psychological and physical deal that I'm not really qualified to speak on. All right, I'll leave that to the psychiatrists and the doctors. But in the meantime, those people, they are human. They do have rights. Okay, this is America. And just because you don't approve of how somebody lives their lives or might be forced to live their lives because of certain physical conditions, really, that's not your damn concern. Okay? That's, people say, oh, my children. Look, lady, the hell with you when you talk about what you want your children to see, because it wasn't too long ago, and in some places it still exists, where me walking down the street with a white lady would be considered, oh, this is bad for the children to see, right? And we had to go through a whole lot of bloodshed and arguments and whatnot before people finally realized, we have a constitution that basically gives people the right to live however they wish to live. See? Now, can I walk down the street butterball naked? No. Right? But if I choose to do it in my own home, it ain't nobody's damn business. Okay? But see, if that's more important to you, excuse me, then your basic freedoms as an American, then so be it. Follow behind MAGA, right? If you think that working people should not have a fair pay, a fair pay rate, be fairly paid for the work they do, whether they be male or female, hey, fine. That's why I say fate has put this on your shoulders, and you have to decide what's more important. Now, as a quick aside, you have to also sit down and realize something. What Trump wants to do, he wants to raise up, he wants to help raise your kid so they will be prepared for the world. The only problem is that the world that he's trying to prepare your kid for is the world of the 1890s. Okay? So think about that. Truly, think about that. And as we wrap this up, let's just say that we're at a point in this country where we have to figure out just what we're going to be. Now, I told you, you have 25%. All right, that's Trump's base. That's the MAGA base, right? But the rest, the 75%, that's left, and this is what Democrats need to realize. They're looking for a party, and they're looking for people who stand up and fight for them. And especially with these New York Democrats, right? Because Schumer is not inspiring anyone, okay? Where I live in the Bronx, my congressman, for example, I wish it was Ocasio, but it's not. Okay? Richie Torres. Nice guy, but I mean, the things that he should be out there fighting for, I don't see him. Right? Two black women were being hounded and harassed because they did their job, working in the polls, were threatened with murder. I really didn't hear too much from the Black Caucus. Didn't hear that much from Congressman Ritchie. We can't. That's not going to work. Okay, we need fighters. We need people out there who are going to fight. America needs that. The Democratic base wants that. And now it's not politics as usual. This democracy, this country is fighting for its life. And you could be part of the problem or part of the solution if you're an elected official. I'm voting for people who want to be part of the solution and who will stand up and loudly proclaim what they're fighting for. I want to see Democrats out there fighting for national health care, right? For paid leave. A pregnant family who's having a child, right? There should be paid leave there. See? I'm willing to sit down and work out the specific details. But the main thing is that, yeah, this is what we need in this country. Okay? We need to have people being able to live a decent quality of life. Our kids need to be able to sit in class and not have to worry about somebody blowing their damn head off. We need to get rid of these people who are trying to tell us and tell our kids what they can and cannot read. We need people to stand up and fight for the American ideals. Okay? That's what we need. And that's what people want to see. And we want to finally have leaders that will fight to make sure that working class Americans have the opportunity to go into the middle class and not have to starve to death just to survive. It's time, folks. It's time to stand up. You see Trump wrapping himself in the flag every chance he gets. That flag is not a shroud. It's not his bed sheet, right? Shrouds are for dead things. America is a living, breathing life, okay? We have to fight to keep it that way. Listen, we're going to have to run. Thank you for your time. Keep reading, keep studying, keep learning what the hell is going on, both in the past and in the present, so that we can make it to the future. Bless you all. Take care. See you next week. Same time, same channel.